welcome to this special episode of Tee Vee. I am Karen Rees-Toppin, the accountability coach, and I am pleased to be welcoming you. I could not be more pleased this evening. This is not one of my regular broadcasts. Normally, I am here on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2 p.m., either live or with a pre-recording. But today, because it is such a momentous occasion for a young lady that I actually work along with, and I love so much, I just had to come live to share this day with her. I want to introduce to you a young lady who has been nominated for the 2014 Wise Woman Award. I don't even know how she didn't manage to win it, because the amount of wisdom that is in this frame is beyond belief. She is one of the most talented cake crafters that I have come across. She has a mind that just takes over and over and over. It delves into the depths of things. She is an entrepreneur by name and an entrepreneur by nature. I introduce to you this evening Miss Jemma Regis.
Thank you. Wow. I had to wonder if you was talking about me. Oh my gosh.
Yes, of course I'm talking about you. Yes, it is you. It is you. You that the Lord has blessed, you that the Lord has endowed with all of these wonderful gifts and talents.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction.
Well, Jemma, it's been a while. It's been a long time coming. I wanted to get you on from the time I figured out that the blessing that was in your hands when it came to baking and decorating. I wanted to get you on, but God has a way of allowing things to happen at the right time and for the right reason. And I believe that this is the right time and this is the right reason. So, for those of us that don't know who you are, Jemma, tell us a little bit about you.
Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. Okay, so obviously my name's Jemma Regis. A lot of people know me as the hands of Jem's Cake Box. I think that's what I'm known for the most. I'm also an author, a published author, a mentor. I host retreats on intimacy with God. I'm the founder of ABCD, Alone Behind Closed Doors, which is a charity that feeds families affected by mental health during the Christmas period, and we support them in other ways. What else? I blog. Oh my gosh, what do I do? Oh, and I'm actually a qualified chef by trade. I'm actually a qualified chef. I think that about sums me up. Yeah.
Qualified chef, author, retreat organizer. My goodness, your plate is certainly full, absolutely full and overflowing, isn't it?
Definitely, yeah. Although it is getting slightly easier at the moment. I'm kind of simplifying things, so yeah.
Okay. All right. So you said that you have a charity called ABCD. Now, whenever I hear people that have charitable causes, I always want to hear more. Tell us more about ABCD.
ABCD, it was actually birthed from my own experiences, really. In the years that I suffered with depression, Christmas time was always a hard time for me. I missed my mum the most at that time, because she always brought something to Christmas, and she died in 1987 unexpectedly. So it was always a hard time for me, and I always struggled around that time. And then one year, I think it was about 5 years ago, I kind of thought, well, I'm going to come home on Christmas Day after church. I'm just going to sit there doing nothing. Oh yeah, I could cook for a few people and just bless them, and so that's what I did. I just got on social media. I'm like, okay, listen, I'd like to bless a few people with a home cooked meal over Christmas, but there is a criteria they have to meet, and they have to have been affected in some way by mental health, with poor mental health, depression, or other something else that would contribute to triggering a low mood or depressive mindset over the Christmas period. Yeah. And it just people like shared it, and then people were offering me money towards it, and I was like, ah, and that's where it started from. And I think we've done it now for about 4 years. We've it's a very emotional thing. We tailor make. What makes us different is that we actually tailor make the hampers to the ethnic minority and the dietary needs. So we find out where you're from, what kind of food you eat, and then we'll tailor make it to that. Basically, we go out and
Wow.
we for those individuals, and there's enough food in there to last up to probably about a week or so. And again, it was done that way because as someone that suffered from depression, there was two things. I struggled with sometimes going out for Christmas because you then had to like put on a facade. Yes, I'm fine when I'm not. I wasn't fine, and so that was really hard. And then another thing was that if I went to like someone's house for dinner for the day, or I went to a soup kitchen, it just reminded me that I was on my own, or it just reminded me of the circumstances. So, having been able to do this for someone in their own home and just deliver it, I know that for me, if someone had done that for me, how it would have affected me versus someone just giving me a generic food hamper. And I'm not knocking the generic food hampers, and I'm not knocking the soup kitchens, but I was tailor making for. In business, they always say your target audience. So it was like my target audience in that case. So that's where how ABCD started, and it's just escalated from there.
But that's a very inspirational story. It just goes to show the level of thought that you put into doing what you were doing. Imagine you are building a food hamper which is tailored to your ethnicity.
Yeah.
Who does that? Most of the food hampers that I have heard of, it's good food, it's lovely food, but it's not tailored to your ethnicity. I mean, that can't be easy. If you get an Indian family, a Caribbean family, an African family, 12 British families, and, someone from Haiti, and of course, the different islands in the Caribbean, they have different, they eat different things and prepare foods in different ways. So it can't be an easy thing. And is it easy to get volunteers to come and assist with this? I mean, who does the shopping?
Well, it's interesting. The volunteers, yeah, we do get volunteers now. We get quite a lot of volunteers, and the shopping is done sort of like a couple of days before. A lot of work goes into it. It would be simple just to like know that you've got X amount of families to feed and you're going to go and get a turkey, this or that, and put it in the box. That would be the easy life. But I didn't grow up having turkey at Christmas time. And so I don't know, it just had to be unique and special. And that's me. And probably that it was laid on my heart to do it that way. So the shopping's done early in the morning. And so what we do is a group of us go and we allocate different families to whoever's going to be doing that shopping. So you get your list. So we ask them, what kind of things they like. A lot of them have kids. We find out, what their favorite things are, drinks, snacks, main meal, what they would usually have. So we've had like we have had an Italian family actually that were Muslim, and they had lasagna for Christmas. So,
Okay.
we made that. We first started off when I was doing all the cooking. We made that, and we had to obviously get halal meat. There was one year we fed an Indian family in Oxford, and we were making roti and dal.
Wow. Wow.
So as it's developed, what we do now is that we now buy all of the groceries in. We will marinate and season all the meats and so forth, and we provide the raw produce, but everything's marinated, seasoned. Unless, some people don't have cooking facilities, in which case we will cook the meal, or if they're elderly, we'll cook the meal for them. So it's developed in that sense, and like I usually do the macaroni and cheese because they like my macaroni and cheese. So certain things will have pre-done, they just have to put it in the oven to cook, but a lot of it goes in raw now, and they love it because we used to deliver early Christmas morning. Now we deliver Christmas Eve, and it means that they've got time for the whole of Christmas Eve in the day to season up, to prepare stuff, and then you get those smells going through the house on Christmas morning. So it's all about, letting it's just about lifting the mood. That's, yeah.
Well, I want to applaud you for all of the work that you are doing to help out in the community. It's never an easy task, and it seems as though you have put it together quite well. You've got your volunteers, and God's blessings continue to be on that particular venture. Tonight, though, we want to talk about something else that you've done, and I know that this is something that has been on your heart for a while, and it was something that you wondered if you were actually going to be able to get it done. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, navigating a lifetime of emotions. You have launched your podcast.
I know. I know. I look.
So let me, for the benefit of those who are watching, let me just say, let me just give a little bit of background. Jemma, as she said before, lost her mom when she was quite early in her years. She was a teenager, and then she didn't have a very easy time adjusting to it. And for a long time, I'm not going to give all the details. I will leave that for you. But for a long time, she didn't have a lot of confidence in herself to do very much. She doubted her abilities, and it was basically a fumble through the fog for a long time in her life. I met Jemma. It was quite a funny story when we met, isn't it? Very, very amusing. Do you remember? Do you remember? I was in London for a very rare visit to London, and I was going to a networking meeting, and it meant I had to take the tube to a particular station. And while going to get the tube, the central line, it was I was waiting on, and I saw this young lady. You know, you have those times when you're walking along and somebody out of a crowd of people, somebody catches your eye, and for some reason you pay attention to what that person is doing. And I saw her, and she caught my eye, and she was getting on a train, and I heard a voice saying to me, "Follow her, follow her." And I didn't, because I mean, I don't want to look like the crazy person that's just come to London and start walking around behind, people on the tube. So I stayed where I was, got on the next train, which was the one I was waiting for, got on the next train. And when I got off the train, crossed the road and got to my destination, there she was at the same location. And we just connected. We just started talking, isn't it? There was no fuss. It wasn't hard.
Do you know what I said to you? Because I said to you, when you walked in, I was shocked, because I was on the station, and I was at Victoria Station, and I saw you in the crowd. And for some unknown reason, of all and I mean, at that point there was no lockdown, so this is rush hour, and there was a crowd, and you was there, and it was like tunnel vision straight to you. Didn't know you, never met you, and then about half an hour later you walk into this venue, and I'm just like, and I think the first thing I said to you was, I saw you at the station. Crazy.
It was so funny. It's almost as if we were meant to meet each other. Great stuff. But when I met Jemma didn't have a lot of confidence in herself. So when I say to you, her launching a podcast tonight, and even the type of day she had today, her launching the podcast at the time when she said that she would launch it, is a gift, a blessing. She's come a long way. So, Jemma, I'm going to ask you to give us a little bit of your experience of how you came to decide you want to do a podcast, and a little bit of the journey to where you are today.
So the podcast kind of came about, I think it was last year, the end of last year. It was kind of laid on my heart, and I do a lot of things, and I wanted to just simplify my life. And people are always saying, "Oh my gosh, you're so busy, you must enjoy it." And I really don't enjoy being so busy. And because of the stuff that I do with emotional well-being, and the stuff that I do with spiritual intimacy with God, it just seemed to me like a good idea to just bring everything, together, and it would just make life easier. God definitely had other plans, and I just put it. I kind of started doing some research, and I just put it down. And as I shared earlier, that I was trying to do my vision board ending of last year, and I just couldn't find the vision to put on the board. I knew it, but I just couldn't visualize to put it on the board. And I did it during lockdown. But what I did do at the beginning of the year, I entered the beginning of the year, and I knew actually there was two things on the vision board, and that was a typewriter with best-selling author, because I'm working on my second book, and mindset, changing mindset. And I came into the year and I'd already started the journey of managing my emotions and managing and overcoming depression from since 2011 at my literally life-changing moment. But there was areas in my mindset that I just wanted to be free from certain triggers and so forth. So I came in this year and it was like, Lord, I want to get through this year, really tunneling, narrowing down on my mindset, so that when I get to the end of the year, I have overcome a lot more of the limitations that I'd entered the year with. And it's my aim to literally eradicate all negative emotional triggers that would take me to that place. So I decided that each day I would have to make a choice, and I was not going to allow myself to get low or discouraged on those days. And that's what I've done every single day so far from this year started. So even through lockdown, while being in my house, living alone, it was like an alcoholic being trapped in a liquor store, right? Because all of the comforts that depression loved was there, and there was obviously that heaviness that everybody seemed to be, just fighting. But I could not allow myself to succumb to that. So I literally fought for my life and really dug in and just did things and put more things in place to manage my emotions, manage my mindset. And it was during that time that I was then able to create the rest of my vision board, and the podcast went on there. And then a few months later, I did a 5-day challenge on Facebook with Lindsay Gold. She's a podcast coach and mentor. And at the end of it, you could sign up. And I was like, I don't know, am I going to find the money, this, that? And I remember you had until like midnight on the Saturday. And that Saturday, I had stuff to do, and I just stopped everything. And I went in my bedroom and I sat there in silence with God. And I said, Lord, how are we going to do this? This year, with making that decision to stay positive every single day and not to allow my mood to sink, I had to dig in deep. I had to, I couldn't start worrying about this and worrying about that. And I spoke to myself that afternoon on my bed, and the words that were coming out of my mouth were full of life. And I just remember it was like 5 minutes to midnight that you had to sign up. And I just needed to know, God, are we doing the right thing? And I did it. And of course, after you make a decision, there's always thoughts that come in. I just cancelled it out. I'm so thankful that I did that, because when I look at the work that we did with Lindsay to produce the podcast, a first-class podcast, I learned so much. And had I not accepted, we wouldn't be sitting here tonight, because it would have been another thing of on the vision board, yeah, I want to do it. And I would have, probably felt disappointed that I hadn't done it. So the journey is part of my journey in, having to go through lockdown, and then just dealing with a lot of stuff coming out of lockdown, other challenges going on, things getting busy, obstacles coming in the way, and still maintain that I wanted to do this, and then setting the date. And at first I set the date too soon, and I was putting myself under pressure. So I put it back to today, and that gave me enough time. And the rest is history. Yeah. here we are. I mean, the setbacks today, obviously the setbacks today were just absolutely crazy and insane. But I said, you know what? I said I'm going to do this podcast, launch it today, and we did. And interestingly, after I did the live this evening, I sat on my sofa and I just felt God was saying to me, just let's sit here for a while. Let's just sit here for a while. And I sat on my sofa and I just reflected, and I was just had a moment of gratitude and thankfulness. So that's how we got to the podcast. And it's called The Elephant in the Room, Navigating Through a Lifetime of Emotions, because that's the journey that I'm taking the listener on, coming from the turning point of choosing life over death and depression, the journey of unlearning learned behavior patterns, and going back into the past, looking at things that happened, why they happened, the effect it had, and how I've turned around and learned to take the truth from that and the strength and the positivity from that instead of the negative.
Yes, I'm glad that you went there, because I was going to ask you, tell us, why is this so important to you? I know your story because we've had a lot of time to share. But for the others, tell us why this is important to you. And I think it is timely because, like you touched on, with people being locked in for such a long period of time, especially now, there are very many people out there that will probably have been having issues with their mental health challenges and trying to figure out ways and coping mechanisms and means of overcoming. So tell us, why is the elephant in the room and navigating a lifetime of emotions, why is this important to you?
I think because in my heart, all my life, in my heart, I've known who I am, as in, I know that, I'm a decent person, I'm trustworthy, all the niceties, I have a genuine heart for people. And it used to really, really hurt me. I mean, emotionally hurt me when people misjudge me or when they got me wrong. I didn't realize the impact of what was happening to me emotionally. I didn't realize how much it was done on the outside. And so therefore people often just labeled me miserable. And that used to hurt because I didn't enjoy being the way that I was. I didn't enjoy the insecurity. I didn't enjoy feeling paranoid. I didn't enjoy having lack of confidence. As a grown woman in my 30s, I went to work in Florida for 2 years, and I was petrified to leave the apartment to get on a bus just because, the paranoia, the fear. I didn't enjoy being that way. So going back, and I mean, I never ever thought I'd be writing a story. In actual fact, when it was laid on my heart, God laid on my heart to write the story, I was like, no, you got the wrong person. I cannot be telling my story. I didn't want to be talking about my past. I didn't want to talk about my parents, whom I loved. I didn't want anybody thinking anything bad towards them. There was all these things. But when I started writing my book, wow, it went through many different drafts until we got to the draft now where it's talking from a place of love, forgiveness, and understanding. And in writing it, I realized that I was born an innocent, pure canvas. And then stuff happened to me at a pivotal point in my life. And it totally transformed my mindset. Before I had a chance to live and experience life, stuff just happened and I started to form certain thinking patterns. But the stuff that happened to me, as much as it wasn't nice, and in today's society, it would be labeled abuse, it was important that people did not have a bad, take away anything really, really negative about my parents, because when I did my homework and I looked at their life and I went back and remembered things that they'd said to me, they were a product of their past. And
Yes.
what they talked about what their parents, my grandparents, had done to them. And I'm pretty sure if I had a conversation with my grandparents, and a lot of the things that were done, the words that were spoken over them, it went back to slavery. So it was also important for me to tell a story because there were so many people, especially in my age group, who have issues with their parents. I was one of them. You know, my mum is not alive, but has some serious issues with my dad, the way he treated us, the things that he said and so forth. And it took the writing of the book to break it down, to go back in the past, and to really look at things, to understand. And as I began to understand, it was like wisdom was just like, you know, being birthed in me. So the book goes deep, 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 deep. And the reader will read some things that is going to make them angry. I'm not going to lie, it's going to make them angry. But when they look at the bigger picture, hopefully it will bring some understanding and bring healing into the lives of, especially within our Caribbean culture and community, families. And so that was important for me to get that out as a place of healing. It was important for me to have my voice heard. I didn't have to explain my past to people, but when you have been through something and you are suffering with depression, you don't enjoy being that way. And I felt that we needed to be heard. People who had suffered with depression because of things that had happened to them in their past, who were battling to survive, who were battling to be warriors, who were battling to make it out of that pit, they needed to be heard instead of just being judged and just suppressed. So that was another reason. And the book goes deeper, but the podcast enables me to keep speaking the ongoing journey, because it's not very well. I walked away from depression in 2011 and I've written a book, and now I'm on my second book and everything's fantastic. Every day I've had to fight for my life, but it's been worth it, because prior to 2011, every day I woke up and I just let my emotions and my thoughts dictate how the day was going to go. And that wasn't good for me. So it's also for people who haven't got to where I've got, to look at me and see that there's hope. Because when you're suffering with it, I would have never thought I'd be here. Never, ever, ever thought. So I want them to realize that they can get here. I don't want people committing suicide. I tried 3 times and I'm here. So I understand what it's like to get to that place as well, to feel so hopeless. And I don't want them to die. I want them to do what I did.
Yeah. There is an alternative. And sometimes it takes stepping outside of yourself. You have to be willing to step outside of yourself to find the truth of the situation that you're in, and to get help. How true is it, do you think, that persons who, because I've heard, you know, sometimes I'm in the midst of some conversations and I really have to keep stoked, because I've heard some people say some things really callously, but I wonder if there is a little bit of truth behind it. How true do you think it is that persons who may be in a deep depression don't get help because they don't want it?
I wouldn't say it's so much that they don't want it. It feels impossible. It feels like, okay, so for me, I've done the counseling, I've done the affirmations, I spoke to people, but I tried everything, but I didn't stick at it. That's the difference. And so when you try, and when you are suffering with depression and your mood is at low, when you try that thing, you want to be able to feel differently. Mm-hmm. And when you don't feel differently, it just makes you feel like, what's the point? Another thing is that nobody taught me in the counsellors prior to 2011, the counsellors and stuff that I would go to and so forth. No one actually said that it's an ongoing journey. So, and even as a Christian, going to church, you prayed, you went to the altar, okay, and you come back, and for the first 2 days you're on a high and you think, yeah. And then I'd wake up and the heaviness was back. It was just a back, and it's like, but I thought you were supposed to go. But I didn't know that, okay, I've got up and my mind is thinking certain thoughts, which is affecting my emotions, and that's why I'm feeling this way. I just thought, well, this is just never ever going to go. So really and truly, I think some of it is down to lack of knowledge and understanding. And on the part of the person who's depressed, like for myself, I'll have to speak for myself. If I tried it and it didn't work, I gave up, because I needed that instantaneous healing and I wanted it to be there constantly. What I've learned in the last 9 years is that if I make the right choice, I trigger a different emotion. And so it's about managing my thoughts, thinking about what I'm thinking about so that I can actually get up and function. I don't want to be under that heaviness anymore. And coming out of depression, my gosh, my eyes are open now to the weight of it, the heaviness of it, the darkness of it. And I'm surprised it has the power to actually overpower you that way and suck the life out of you, because it really, really is a heavy, 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 dark emotion. So now that I've learned to manage it, I recognize the way I can see it coming from a distance. And so I put things in place so I don't go back there. So I don't think it's so much that the person wants to stay there. I think it's the fact that it is so heavy, it almost feels like nothing will change. And when you've tried a few things and nothing changes, it adds to the, it's always going to be this way. But deep down, they don't want to be that way. Deep down, they want to get out. Trust me, I spent 35 years there. I didn't want to stay there for 35 years. They want to get out, but it just feels like it's never going to change.
All right. So I've just got two more questions for you, and then we're going to end for the night. The first question is, if you had to give a word of advice or encouragement for someone who is a close friend, a relative, or someone who knows, someone who is in a state of depression at the moment, they have been offered help, but they are resisting the help. What advice do you give to the friend who wants to help them to see that that they can be supported to be better?
Stick with them. I know it's hard because I wasn't the easiest person to be around. Stick with them, because the depressive mindset isn't there 24/7. Okay, so there will be a reprieve, and when they're in a better frame of mind, they will actually take on what you are saying. You can communicate with them. When you're in a low state, nothing you say, it's not going in. It's just rebounding. So you stick with them. You don't wash your hands of them. I know it's not easy. And when they do kind of come up, that's when you kind of ease in there. You don't kind of want to go in there like, I really think you should speak to somebody, even though you know that. Talk to them. Try and understand, maybe if there is a counsellor around who you can speak to get some advice on the best way to maybe sort of coax them out into to getting that help. I've done it with people, so I just have to pick my moments, pick my time, and know when I'm speaking to them and I'm having them, and when I'm speaking to the depressive mindset. And in all the situations that I've been in, by sticking with them and speaking to them, they've managed to go and get help.
Thank you so very much. I think that's very important. The stick with them is probably, like you said, going to be the hardest thing, but probably the most crucial thing. So thanks so much for that. Now, finally, you mentioned something to me a bit earlier today about your happy box. What is your happy box?
Oh my gosh, the happy box. So the happy box, I was reading I Am My Brand by Kubi Springer, and she talked about a happy box, and she had in her happy box, she just had like things that she would do in there. And I thought, you know what? I like the sound of that. So I created my own happy box. And in my happy box, I put in there gift voucher to go shopping, like clothes shopping. There is some money in there for if I want to go and get my hair done or have a pedicure or something like that, something that will, lift me up. Coffee shop vouchers. The most important thing that I put in there was letters that I wrote to myself. I know how challenging it can be sometimes for me. So I wrote letters when I was in a very strong place to the mindset that I know tries to come in and overpower me when I'm having a struggling with something. And I put those in there. And that's what I went to today because I needed to. And then there's just other little things in there. There's instructions in there, to make sure that I do get out, exercise, and depending on what the situation is would depend on what it is that I do from the happy box. So there's things like, have a slumber party with some of your girlfriends, watch a movie, get some sleep, go for a run. But it all ministers to wherever, you're at, but it keeps me in check. Yeah, that's my happy box.
Okay. And is there a little poem or a little something from the happy box that you can actually share with us?
Well, there was until my tablet decided to die. Okay, right. So I'm so about that. But like today, when I came in and I realized that there was a problem and I wasn't able to launch the podcast when I wanted to earlier. And the first thing was, I was like, I've got letters in my happy box. So I went to the happy box, and the letter that I read was such a strong letter. I was even like, wow, that's who you really are. When I finished reading, it was like, that's who you really are. And it opened up with the first thing I said is, dear Jemma, you are not a failure. And when I heard those words, my attention, the letter had my full attention, because in the years that I suffered with depression, that's the first thing that would come to my head. You're a failure. You haven't done this right. And it wasn't even just like, if I had made a mistake on something, it could be the most simplest thing, but it went right back to childhood. So you're not a failure. This is not a mistake, because that was the next thing. Oh my God, maybe I shouldn't have done this, and just telling myself that stuff happens. Okay. And I'm not the first person it's happened to. I'm not going to be the last person. I talked about, which I thought was really, really, I was actually inspired by my own letter. I said that there is a solution. And then I said, the solution is saying that I'm there, find me. So it was really, it made me do work. It empowered me. It encouraged me. So, yeah, I'm going to be writing some more letters and putting in there. But interestingly, that I am giving away a happy box on my podcast. I am having a free giveaway, and I am going to be giving away 2 happy boxes to listeners. And I've put the information in the podcast, and I'll be sharing it on social media tomorrow. All they have to do is literally listen to the podcast, subscribe, share it, tag me in there, and they get entered into the free prize draw, which will take place on Saturday. And
okay.
yeah, and I'll announce the winner on next week Tuesday's show, and they will have one of those, and it's got coffee vouchers in there. There's some uplifting cards, journal, letters. I've written 5 letters and put in there. There's some some spa sort of treatment, treatment things. There's all these different things in there, yeah, that they can go to, and yeah.
Wow. Well, I want a happy box now. All right. So tell us, where can we find your podcast?
Okay, so it's on Apple, and it's on iTunes, Apple, and it's on Amazon Music. It's not on Spotify. Well, it might be on Spotify now, but it will eventually be on Spotify. And it's called The Elephant in the Room: Navigating a Lifetime of Emotions.
All right, so we're going to make sure that gets put in the comments at the bottom of this particular broadcast so that others, when they check back, they can see exactly what the name is. Jemma, I want to say thank you so very much for agreeing to come on to Key TV this evening. I know that today has been a very challenging one for you, and I am so grateful that you persevered as always, and you've overcome. You're a shining example to me. You're a shining example of someone that has the right type of mindset to be an overcomer, to be a conqueror, to be successful. Everything that you put your hands to, you do it with the best of your ability. And I just want to continue to pray God's blessings on you and to wish you all of the very, very best.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Karen. It's been great. Thank you.
And I want to say thank you so much to those who have tuned into Key TV this evening for this very, very special edition. I hope that you have enjoyed meeting Jemma and listening to her journey as she traverse is the word I'm looking for, as she walked along this road to where she has now released her podcast. Yet another mark for something else that she has accomplished. Remember, she also has a book and she also arranges retreats. So if you want to get a copy of her book, look her up. She's on Facebook, Jemma Regis. She does talk about her book, and you can listen out for her second book that is going to be released either Christmas time or sometime next year. So if you go onto her page, follow her, and you will get to hear all of the information that you need to hear. So thank you for joining us tonight. That's it for now. God bless you and have a great night. Please remember to stay safe, and we will see you the next time Key TV is on. Bye.